There is a trail log at Crestline Camp on the Uinta Wasatch Cache that every maintenance crew is supposed to read before their rotation starts. Not for safety protocols, not for equipment notes, just the log. A composition notebook with a green cover, kept in a dry box nailed to the wall of the equipment shed. I read mine on the first night. Most entries were routine: dates, crew size, miles cleared, storm damage. Then I found the entry from the crew before mine. The last line read, "May come. Do not look into the trees after midnight. Even if you hear your name, I am not someone who startles easily. I had worked trail maintenance for the Forest Service for 4 seasons before that rotation, more nights alone in the backcountry than I can count from memory. I understand what dark does to perception, and I do not give it more credit than it deserves. But that line stayed with me, not because it frightened me, because it was written in the same flat handwriting as the rest of the entry. The crew leader had spent the first 2/3 of the page documenting water bar repairs and blowdown removal. No drama, no lead-up, just that last line, exactly as routine as everything above it. As if warning the next crew not to look into the trees after midnight was the same category of information as noting that the 3rd footbridge needed redecking. That is what I could not shake. Not the warning, the tone of it. Her name was Carla, 12-year veteran with the regional trail crew. The kind of person who knew every connector route in that district from memory, not prone to drama. Not the kind of person who writes warnings she does not mean. I sat in the equipment shed for a while before I read the rest. The shed smelled like machine oil and pine resin, and the particular damp that accumulates in a structure, sealed and reopened season after season. I held the notebook. I turned back to Carla's entry. Do not look into the trees after midnight. Even if you hear your name. The line had been underlined. Once, the way you underline something when you are deciding whether to say it aloud or just leave it for the next person to find. I closed the notebook and went to set up camp. The camp sat in a narrow drainage above the tree line, with lodgepole pine on 3 sides and a talus slope rising steeply to the north. The first thing I noticed was the deer trail, a clear game trail running along the eastern edge, the kind that takes years to establish, packed hard by the same route, repeated across hundreds of crossings. The vegetation on either side was undisturbed. The trail itself was clean, no tracks, not old tracks, just clean bare earth. Something had stopped using it. I wrote that in the log on day 1, not the warning. Just game trail on east edge, no current tracks, vegetation intact. The next 3 weeks were correct in every measurable way, and wrong in one way I could not measure. The water ran clean. The weather was manageable. The work went well. But the drainage had a specific quality in the hour before true dark, when the light dropped below the ridgeline and the temperature changed, but the sky was still pale. That hour felt occupied. I kept noting it in the log because that is what the log is for. Day 8, the hour before dark, feels different. Day 11, Tyvendi pressure in the drainage around dusk. Day 13, Sicing, still cannot name it. That was the last normal thing I wrote. On day 14, I woke at 20 past midnight. I know the time because I checked before I moved. The drainage was silent, in the layered way mountain drainages are silent. But underneath all of that, at the edge of the lodgepoles, I heard something. I will not call it my name because I cannot prove it was. I will only say that it had the shape of my name, 2 syllables. The weight distributed the way my name distributes it. I did not look. I had read the log. I knew the instruction. I lay in the tent and did not look until whatever I had heard stopped. That took approximately 4 minutes. The next morning I found the log open on the equipment shed table. I had closed it the night before. Always close it when I set it down. It was open to day 13. My last entry. The one that said mess still cannot name it. Underneath my handwriting, in handwriting that was not mine, in ink that looked older than it should have been, someone had written 2 words. We know. I stood at that table for a long time. I called the district ranger station from the satellite communicator. The ranger who answered was named Petrov, covering that backcountry zone. I told her about the writing in the log, about Carla's entry, about the sound the night before. She did not ask me to repeat anything. Then she said, "The entry from Carla is accurate." I asked what she meant. She said, "Faith, it is accurate advice. The rule holds." I asked what I was dealing with. She said something that has been in that drainage longer than the trail system has existed. Something that pays attention. She said it the way Carla had written it. Not frightened. Procedural. The way you describe a river crossing that requires a specific technique. She told me to finish the rotation. Keep the log. Write in it every day. Note any entries that were not mine. She said keeping the log was important. She did not explain why. I asked if it was safe to stay. There was a pause. She said, Carla finished her rotation. Every crew before her finished theirs. The rule holds as long as you hold it. I thanked her and closed the communicator. I went back to the log and read the 2 words again. We know. Then I turned to a fresh page, wrote the date, the weather, the morning temperature, and the water bar on the north connector that needed resetting. I closed the notebook and went to work. That night, I kept the tent sealed, and I kept my eyes away from the lodge poles as the hour before dark settled into the drainage. I have 5 days left in this rotation. I am writing this on day 17. I have found no further entries in the log that were not mine. The game trail is still clean, still unused, as if everything that used to cross that ground decided at some point to route around this camp instead. And every night, in the hour after midnight, the drainage holds a silence so complete that I have started to understand it as a kind of attention. I keep the rule. I will keep it until I come down off this mountain. What I have not yet decided is whether I will tell the next crew exactly what I know, or whether I will do what Carla did, write it plainly, in the same tone as the rest of the entry, and let them sit with it the way I sat with it on the first night, in a shed that smelled of pine resin and old oil, holding a notebook, trying to decide how seriously to take a single underlined line at the bottom of a page. I think I will do what she did. I think that is the only honest thing left to do.